Good morning, everybody. We all have days, oh excuse me, I feel like a teacher with those on, where we really should have stayed in bed. But I'd headed up to the Lake District after Liverpool, full of enthusiasm. I hadn't been for a while, conditions looked perfect, and I was quite excited to go and get some images. And then it went horribly wrong. And the frustrating thing was I could feel it going wrong. From the moment I woke up on the first morning, I thought, I'm not really feeling the love for this at all. It could have been the weather. It could just have been one of those things. We all get them every now and then where for absolutely no reason whatsoever, your brain just says, nah, forget it. Don't bother, it's not going to work, doesn't matter what you do. So I battled on, and by the second morning, I'd already strongly come to the conclusion that there was no way on God's green earth I was getting a decent image from this weekend. But rather than scrapping the whole thing, I decided I would use it to show you it can go severely wrong at times, and images that should never ever have made it off my memory card do sometimes sneak through, and they happen. I'd love to sit here and say every time I go in I get an amazing image. It's rubbish. I don't do badly, so I can't complain. But this particular weekend was an absolute mare. Locations and scenes and conditions that 3 or 4 years ago I would have killed for really weren't floating my boat, and it was reflecting in my photography, and I reached the point where I was just determined to get an image. When really what I should have done was said, this isn't working. Go back to Maddie, have a cup of tea, have some breakfast, go home. Do something productive and go home. But I thought it would be quite fun to try and pick these images apart, and it's not going to be difficult. I've done a little bit of a voiceover for the images that I got, where hopefully I have critiqued everything that is wrong with the images. But feel free to post below and put your own views across. I may have missed something. You can sometimes be too close to an image to see what's wrong, although in this occasion I think I can see pretty much everything that's actually wrong. I think I got one image from the weekend that I'm relatively pleased with, but it isn't a real, it's not an out of camera image. And I'm kind of happy with it. I don't think it'll ever get printed. We'll probably never see the light of day apart from on here. But it is definitely the best of a bad bunch. So we do get it wrong. It doesn't always go our way. And it's sometimes for no reason other than the fact something in your head says, it's just not going to work. But the temptation, and certainly my temptation, was to just keep battling on thinking, I'll get something in a minute, I'll get something in a minute, I'll get something in a minute. And then I got to the end of the day and I thought, what a complete waste. The only plus side was I was out in the countryside, in beautiful location, in decent weather, I had good company, and that made the weekend worthwhile. But photography-wise, it was a complete bust. So enjoy watching me get it horrendously wrong. As I say, feel free to pop your comments below. Hopefully my crit will cover everything, but I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to read anybody else's crit. I won't be offended, I promise. And hopefully next weekend we'll be on to something better. It can only improve. Good morning. Oh, it's a bit parky. It's actually about 2 degrees, so it's not really that cold. Oh God, I look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards. Well, that was good fun last night at Liverpool. And we're now in the Lake District. And it's not raining. Yay! Yeah. We're at Pooley Boathouse. And I've always said I wouldn't come back here unless conditions were perfect. And they were supposed to be fairly close to perfect. But no. There's a big band of colour coming up in the distance where the sun's rising. But we have very, very ripply water, which is kind of not what you want at Pooley. There's almost a hint of colour in the sky, and we're still half an hour off sunrise. In fact, if I turn you round, getting some really nice colour up there. Unfortunately, the boathouse is over here. Oh, God. So it's nothing sparkling. It's the usual composition when you come to the boathouse. Boathouse bottom right-hand corner, or over on the right-hand third. There's a beautiful tree in the background that I've managed to get in. There's still a little bit of colour in the trees surrounding it, some beautiful golden yellow colours. There's a few reddish coloured ones to the left, and then trying to get the sky in, but there's no foreground because of the wind. The reeds that you can see here when you're doing long exposure are just turning to mush, which really isn't the plan at all. So I started off at F13 and 30 seconds, and I've just done another one because we've got a bit of better cloud cover. It broke up, it was really thick, heavy, goopy black cloud this morning. I've dropped that down now to 8 seconds, which is still giving slightly smoother water, but it's allowing me to pick up that little hint of colour. What we need now is the light, the sunlight, to pop up, put some light on the boathouse itself, and that will just lift the whole scene. Oh, we're always waiting in this game. Are you plugged in? Yeah. There was some beautiful colour. Completely the wrong direction. Colour my nose. Oh, and we're now getting the light coming through and hitting just on the tops of the trees. And those trees are lighting up quite nicely. We're just waiting for it to come down and light the boathouse. But as I say, it's a bit too breezy to get the classic shot with the nice reflections. Pop the 6-stop on because the light is getting obviously brighter, the ambient light's increasing. I'm getting 10 seconds with his F13 and have a grad pulled in because you've got the hillside and see the light coming there. The sky is obviously brighter than that, so I've got a grad filter pulled in at an angle just to even the exposure out, and that works quite well. A blend of 4 images to get the shot that I wanted, which included some colour in the sky, the light just hitting the tops of the trees, and the light on the boathouse. This is more like it. When we've got flat, calm water, perfect reflections. We're at Yew-Tree Tarn, and it's amazing how much calmer it is here. There's little bits of colour dotted around. There's a couple of nice yellowish trees over here. The sky is blander than a bland thing, so we're going to try and leave out as much of that as possible, I think. So it's going to be more focused on closer detail rather than the big vista, because much as I like that view, there's nothing there. There's no light, the light's really flat, the sky's bland, so it's a case of trying to pick out the little bits of colour that there is. Yeah, and it's still pigging cold. Oh, right, I'm going to get set up and see what I can come up with. Hee. What in Lord's name was I thinking when I shot this? It all seemed like a good idea. I was looking at this lovely green tree that sort of curved slightly to the left, and then the barren tree on the left hand side of that, which also curved to the left. We've got some beautifully reddy brown trees in the back with vertical lines, and we had a little bit of gold down here, and then obviously we had the perfect reflection. It just doesn't work in any way, shape or form. There is no separation between these 2 trees in the background. It's 2 and ideally it should be 3. It's not an image I should have taken. I think the idea was right, but it doesn't make an image. And sometimes there is that pressure, not from anybody else other than myself, to take an image because of one particular aspect of the scene is correct. And in this instance, it was the reflections. I'm beginning to think this is more of a waterfall type of day. So I might go off in search of some waterfalls. It's overcast, it's murky. But hey, you have to try these things. You have to make the mistakes, because you don't learn otherwise. Although I've been doing it long enough to actually know that I shouldn't have taken that shot, but hey. So I'm going to stop wobbling you around. I'm doing the circuit of the tarn, and I shall see if there's anything else I can find that I shouldn't take a photo of, but I'm going to anyway. Because sometimes you have to do it. Did somebody mention waterfalls? We've driven up to Tarn House and we're doing the Tom Gill waterfall walk. And I did a vlog from here about 18 months ago, and there's a hell of a lot more water coming down it now. And I think they've been clearing trees, or it certainly feels that way. I don't think I got to this area last time because it was too overgrown. The conditions weather-wise are pretty perfect. It's overcast, it's gloomy, there's no light. I've spotted a couple of compositions further up the track, but I thought I'd do those on the way back up. And when I spotted this, I thought, oh, that works. So we've got the main fall coming in top left-hand corner of the image, and then it kind of curves slightly, and I have this little bit of the fall coming out the bottom right-hand side of the image. I've got to be a little bit careful because of this tree here. It just encroaches on the image. I have a little bit of cloning there, but I didn't want to cut it in too tight because I would have lost this bit of where the falls hits the water pool. I've been trying for the magic half second and failing miserably. So we're at 4 seconds. I have the polarizer on to take the glare off. I had 2 ND filters, ND grads, pulled all the way down to reduce the exposure. It is so bright compared with the surrounds that it was really easy to blow the highlights out. And I'm still not convinced it works. Don't know. We'll see when we get home. I've decided this vlog is going to be called the It's Okay to Fail vlog. Because if you don't fail, you don't learn. Now, I'm really not sure what I don't like about this. This irritated me, and I did think about cloning it out, and I'll confess I had a go, but it didn't work. I love the leaves, and I love the rich greens and the reds and the browns coming through here. But there is just something not right with this water, and I can't put my finger on it. Whether it's too smooth or not smooth enough, I can't decide. It should work. It comes in top left, comes round, comes down out the bottom right hand side. We've got splashes of colour. Composition wise, I don't think it's bad, but that is driving me insane. So that'll be another fail then. Good morning. Oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I need to get down here to talk to you. Well, I'm going to try to break the habit of this weekend and actually get an image I'm happy with. Excuse me. We've come back to Yew Tree Tarn. I'll just give you a quick swizz. You couldn't really ask for a much better start to the day than that. There's a little cloud just peeking up above the hilltop. Let's put you down. There is not a breath of wind. The sun is meant to be coming in that way, straight over the top of me. So we should get a bit of alpenglow across the tops. And I keep thinking I see it already, but I think it's a little bit too early. So yes, it's just a case of trying today. It's clear. So again, not perfect. I'd have killed for some clouds, but we should get some light on the trees, which will help make the colours pop. And they should contrast quite nicely against the bright blue sky. So I'm hoping to make a little bit of a success out of a complete failure of a weekend. And I'm not disheartened about the failure because I've learnt from it. I'll probably still make the same mistakes in the future, but hey, that's just me. Now, a few years ago, this would have been my idea of heaven. Perfectly flat, calm water, the sun just nipping on the tops of the hills, but not strong enough. We've got really heavy shadows here, and I guess in hindsight, I should have cut the image here. But I wanted a pano type effect, and it failed miserably. I've started to get banding, almost like I'd got the polarizer on. and I hadn't. I was on ISO 100, but I can see definite banding, and it's exacerbated because this is a low quality JPEG. I've managed to get Mark in frame there, but he was moving slightly and the exposure wasn't short enough to keep him sharp. There's a hint of a cloud there, and that's it. And it's probably one of the most boring reflection shots I've ever taken. But there is just no interest here. There's no interest here. The sky was so wishy-washy, and the colour on the top here is just not strong enough to add interest. And I have saturated that slightly. So that'll be another fail then. Can you see a theme developing here? Well, I thought we'd make a hat trick of it, but by this point in the morning, I was getting slap happy, and I wasn't really paying huge amounts of attention. Hence, I haven't really noticed that this area is rippled, because the wind had picked up very, very slightly. But that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is this area, which is now completely in shade, and the darkness is emphasised because the top of this mountain is or this hill is so darn bright. There is a solitary cloud that's trying to move, but the exposure just wasn't long enough. Had I left the exposure long enough, then these would have been even less sharp than they are at the moment, because obviously the breeze was moving them. There's also a little patch here where the wind, it was either the wind or some ducks, something was moving the water. But I think that ties in first place for possibly the most boring reflection shot I've ever taken. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a weekend where I should have stayed in bed. So anyway, a quick viewer's image. Now, I had a little bit of difficulty getting the image. It wouldn't download onto my laptop or my PC or my phone. I sent the gent a message saying, which image is it? And he very kindly created a folder on Flickr for me. I'm just hoping that I've downloaded the right image. And I apologise if I pronounce your surname incorrectly. It's from Mark McFeeters, I think that's it. And it's an image from the New Forest. Beautiful reflection, works perfectly in mono. It was a really, really good spot. My kind of image, minimal, mono, and moody. So, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Excuse the mess, I've had my hat on all morning, my hair's all over the place. Bye for now.